evening, everybody.
Welcome back to Competitive Speed Series.
The time has come for 5 red lights. 3 wide through turn 3. Oh, into the wall!
I knew this would happen. I knew they wanted to try something.
AMR have gotten their wish. A 1-2 for the team. Another victory for VNT to put the cherry on top of their dominance. Hello, good evening, and a warm welcome to you. I keep forgetting that the stinger actually takes some time to process, so to say. Welcome back to Competitive Speed Series. My name is Frostbeth, aka Rob, and I'll once again be your commentator for tonight. My dear viewers, we have arrived at round number 11 here at Season 7 in CSS. And last week, we were in China. This time, we are almost back around halfway the globe. Back in Europe, back in Belgium. Spa-Francorchamps, one of the most famous, and in my opinion, the prettiest track on the F1 calendar. Of course, the biggest one as well. 22 laps will be driving around here. And of course, the championship is still everything to play for. In fact, it is FVR that has reduced the gap once again to the championship leaders. Although, to be fair, it could have been much more than that. The gap now is 97 points. They've shrunken the gap by 14 points, but it could have been more if they had just altered their race strategy a little bit. It was VRM last week that took the 1-2, if you'll remember, the famous 1-2 by starting on the hard, then swapping on to the medium tires. Turned out to be a great strategy. It also turned out that Jeremy Gallagher especially had a great speed around the track, claiming pole position as well as the win, and his teammate Max Belmont made it a 1-2 for the team. They've now massively closed the gap. It was about 60 points last time. Now it is only 4 points to 4th placed TRT. So that battle is definitely heating up for sure. Then 61 points ahead of TRT is now ET8 quite firmly in that 3rd position. Below VRM, it is AMS losing ground to the guys in the Saubers. OMB sitting in P7 still, then SET in 8th, IRT in P9. And Aces are still trying to get rid of that accursed last position with 56 points on the board. They're still not that far behind IRT, but they have failed to score points consistently, especially in the last few races. And speaking of AMS, they've once again brought their ace, Estimba, to the track tonight. He hasn't failed the team yet. He's made a podium every single race he's appeared in. So he's looking to take the fight to the top teams once again. He's already stolen 1 victory from FVR. Can he make it 2 tonight? Now let's head to the track. And I also can't wait to show you some fancy bits I've found. I found a new piece of software. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. Project Eternum, made by a Sim Racing Center. Allows me to play some fancy overlays over the game. So I'm going to try out some things tonight in the stream live here, and I'm hoping that things will be working properly. I hope it only requires the drivers to enable their names in the telemetry settings. I'll having a quick look to see who exactly is using their name. Everybody except one Aston Martin driver, so that is pretty awesome. Looks like it is working like a charm. Except for one thing I just noticed, so forgive me pausing your thing a little bit. I have to do something real quick. Just saw a name displayed wrongly. Now it should be fixed. All right, out we go then. It looks like VRM are quite eager to get going immediately. They are both out on track. The first 2 cars to be here going around in Spa-Francorchamps to heat their tires, get ready for a proper hot lap. Let's join on board a little bit and let me show you one of the fancy bits I've managed to add. There we go. That's a halo graphic, and it works. It is very fancy indeed. Doesn't even require telemetry, as you can see. It just shows the speed, RPM, etc. Nothing too fancy, nothing too private, so to say. I also have this one, the sector lap times. Let's see if they function properly as well once we get going. So there's that. That's the two graphics I'll be using for tonight. I'll certainly be using more of those once I get some more interesting settings going. There's a lot of other things I'd like to use. I'm also able to use custom logos. I can show you here with one of the AMS drivers. You can see it right there. His name has got the fancy AMS logo instead of the Haas team logo. I've managed to find the AMS logo and the SET logo so far. The other 8 I'll have to find. Or perhaps somebody can send them to me. We'll see. Off we go then. First and foremost, it is Tristan Derbecourt for VRM. Let's see what lap time he can get on the board tonight. Let's see if he can carry on VRM's great momentum they've built up in China with their beautiful 1-2. Let's see how he'll be doing as he approaches the end of the first sector. I know you got a double lap data thingy right now, but I like this one a little bit better. You can see right there, purple obviously, sector 1, 30.043. And onwards he goes, then towards the turn number 10, the famous downhill corner. Always quite difficult to get this one right, but so far so good. His teammate Jeremy Gallagher not too far behind. 1:39 pole, that is very enthusiastic, I'd say. Let's see if he can manage that. Everybody pretty much is out there on track. I believe one team, or maybe I saw that wrong. No, there was an old lineup, never mind. Nobody is having to serve a qualifying ban. Everybody's out there anyway. All 20 drivers, in fact. And this track being so big, there's plenty of room for them anyways. Should be perfectly fine for them then to carry onwards. 13.0 through the middle sector. And only the final sector to go still for Tristan. And then we'll see what the first lap time is going to be. Apart from Matteo Manolo, everybody is now driving around fast. And Matteo is starting his hot lap right now. It's a rare sight, actually, to see everybody on a hot lap at the same time, which is happening right now. So Tristan Derbecourt then onto the main straight across the line, 40.537. So far, so good then. A very fast lap time indeed. Jeremy Gallagher goes about 1.5 tenths quicker, 40.4. Other drivers, it looks like Estenba has been unable to set the lap time yet. Actually, it was Ali Harnby who was unable to set the lap time. Estenba is actually heading straight back in. Unsatisfied with his lap time so far. Ken Fisher for now a third position just behind Tristan Derbecourt. And there is Alejandro Loero, a new name here for the FVR team in CSS. And Brian Bakar at the same time making it a 1-2. Never mind that, because there is Oliver Knott with a 40.1. As well as Alex Santana splitting the FVR drivers. They are once again looking quite strong tonight. And it's business as usual then at the top of the qualifying table with FVR and VNT dominating. Well, to be fair, their lap times are not that far away from the other drivers so far. Let's see how, for example, Thomas Robotham is doing as he goes across the line in a few seconds time. Where can he put his Aston Martin? P8 for now. 40.600. His teammate still on the way. Tom Wolfgram in P6 now splitting the VRM drivers. Julius Jones, the other ONB driver, slotting himself into P12. Looks like Ollie Hornby. No, never mind. He's not trying again with another attempt. Or maybe this is just a cool down lap for another attempt on this set of tires. But this track is long. If he does so, who knows how much time he'll have left for another run or two. Marcel Pabst, I believe, is the only driver properly pushing. No, he is not either. So that means both AMS drivers as well as Marcel are without a lap time yet. Matteo is the odd one out, with half a second away from his own teammate in 17th place. Looks like he's got a lot of time to find. And he's actually, judging by the battery light flashing on the back, not flashing on the background actually, pushing. No, he isn't. 2.8 seconds slower than Alejandro in the first sector. Ollie has no fuel. Well, that does explain speed. Very eager, though, to get back into the box. Off he goes. Yeah, that's an issue as well. No fuel around Spa in qualifying. It's something you'll see probably see more often anyways. If you take 5 kilograms of fuel, you'll have enough for 2 laps. That's not enough to do the whole set of 3. An out lap, a hot lap, and an in lap. So 5 kilograms. You can use it at the very end When you cross the line and the AI takes over, then it's perfectly fine. But before that, not recommended. Unless you don't mind losing a bit of time by going slow. So, while everybody was out initially, now everybody has come back in. It's absolute chaos in the pit lane. And the order is as follows. Alejandro Loureiro for FPR is leading the way. About 700ths of a second away from Oliver Knott in second place. And it's Alex Santana making up the first position of the second row, followed by Rayan Bakar in fourth. Then Jeremy Gallagher in P5, Tom Wolfgram in P6, with Tristan Debecourt in P7. Then Ken Fisher doing a good work there for IRT. They need the points to stay ahead of AZR and close the gap to P8 in the standings. ONB's Thomas Robotham not doing too bad either in P9. And it's TRT looking, at least for now, a little bit in the mud in 10th and 11th. Their nearest rivals now being VRM in P5 and 7 is a troublesome sight for the Mercedes pair indeed. Back out on track though, both AMS drivers. Let's follow them around a little bit. See how they'll be doing. Ollie Hornby last week didn't have a great race in China. He's looking to make a little bit of a comeback here for the team. Trying to stay close to his teammate. Estenba actually might want to have the support potentially up in front, depending on how well he does, of course, on this track. We haven't seen the lap time for him yet. Let's see if he can get anywhere close to the top of the field. Zandvoort is the one where he took the victory. Silverstone, that's where he took second place. And then there was a third place to add as well. Although, unfortunately, from the top of my head, I can't remember which race that was. Because that's how my brain works. Everybody is headed back out right now. I can see on the minimap that the last Aston Martin is leaving the pit lane, that being Lewis Jones. Getting himself ready for another 10. There's 9 minutes remaining. Everybody will be back in time. Everyone has names on now. Let me have a quick look. They do. That's excellent. It actually works. I do not need public telemetry. That is awesome. All right, so next week onwards, I'll be using more fancy graphics then. Wonderful. Really appreciate the drivers responding en masse to the request by you, Ace, to turn on their player names. It works perfectly. I don't need to use a custom grid editor to change the names. Let's actually watch Ollie. He's the first on a hot lap out of everybody. At the same time, let's turn on some of the fancy graphics. Let's compare him to Alejandro, pole sitter, a 10th off in the first sector. Not too bad. So, for your information, while the top right lap data shows the comparison to the lap time of the driver itself, the new graphic actually compares the lap time to the pole sitter. So, double the data, double the fun, I'd say. 1 minute 12.796 for Alejandro in the middle sector. Let's see how close Ollie can get to that one. A 10th lost in the first sector, perhaps indicating that he's using a little bit more downforce than Alejandro is. Then perhaps he might make it up in the middle sector. Let's see. No, half a second away right now. Looking at the moment for a 40.8, I'd say. Perhaps P12 is possible. Perhaps a bit closer to the top 10 than that. We'll know in a few seconds' time. Only the bus stop chicane to go. Turns 19 and 20. Attacks them as much as possible. Then onto the main straight. DRS open for the last few meters. 40.6 actually. Not too bad. P10. Definitely better than last week. Aston Ba has once again invalidated. It's the pressure is definitely on. He's certainly feeling it. It's definitely not helping him to a potential top 5. Let's see then. Speedy on his way as Alejandro becomes the first drive to go with the 1 minute 39s. 39.965 for the FPR driver. Once again improving on his own lap time. Doing quite well. Rayan Bakar's teammate has decided to abandon his lap. Oliver Knott, fastest first sector. Improvement in the middle sector. Let's see where he finds himself compared to his nearest rival. That being Alejandro, of course, on provisional pole position. Oliver not looking to ensure that VNT don't lose another bit of points to FVR, making it a 1 minute 40.1. In the end then, losing time in the final sector. Alex Santana, faster in the middle sector than his own lap time. Does improve in the end, but also can't touch our provisional pole position. Jeremy Gallagher now then goes up into P4. Once again, the man is showing that he's practiced a whole lot, because just like China, he's fast. Not as close as to pole position as previously, but then again, in China, he only managed to get pole position at the very last second. And apart from that, he was actually somewhere around P5 or 6, so perhaps he can actually pull off that surprise again. Lots of yellow flags, by the way, on the track because of cars going slow, obviously. Let's have a look at Estenba. He's actually gone for another run on the same set of tires. Can't see how much time remains right now due to the massive amounts of yellow flags, but Estenba has decided to finish this hot lap. And he does go 40.5. That's only P11. But then again, that set of tires already had a... well, at least half a hot lap under their belt. Now let's see if Estenba will be having enough time left for a final run. The order now then, FVR's Alejandro Loguero still leads the way. Oliver not in second place, followed by Alex Santana, Jeremy Gallagher in fourth now, Ryan Bakar in P5, Ken Fisher for IRT has been improving even more now to P6, Tom Wolfgram now in seventh, Diego Ferrer and David Martinez for TRT have improved a little bit, find themselves in 8th and 9th right now, Speedy in P10 then, Estenba up to P11, Tristan Darbycourt has sunken all the way down to P12, but I don't think he has improved on his previous attempt. Thomas Robotham now P13. Then it's Zozo in 14th. Ollie Horby has now been bumped all the way down to P15. Marcel Pabst in P16. Joaquin Wigley, the other IRT driver, in 17th. Lewis Jones then in P18. And then it's the AZR pair of Marcus Guerrero and Matteo Manolo on the last row of the grid, actually. And the only two drivers to stay in the 1 minute 41s. And especially Manolo is now 2 seconds away from pole position. That's quite painful. At this rate, AZR's last position is only looking more and more likely. 3 minutes remain. If Estenba is quick now, he can still make it to the pit lane for a final run. Otherwise, P11 is the best he's gonna get. Might actually be out of fuel as well. Otherwise, he would have been coming in much faster, I'd say. His teammate is already back out on track. Estenba will have to rely on the quickness of his pit crew. And that will determine on whether he can do another run or not. Here he goes. I think he'll need at least 2.5 minutes. And that might be a challenge. It's now 2.5 minutes remaining. He should be coming out within 15 seconds from this point. Let's see if he can make it. We'll keep an eye on the minimap on the last white dot remaining there. As well as Matteo still sitting. Never mind, he's now moving out. So all that now remains is Estenba's little dot moving. But so far, no movement in the pit garage of the Haas team. Once again, Ollie Hornby will be the first to set the lap time. He's gone out decently early. But everybody out there will have only one run. If they make a mistake now, then it will be over. And indeed, Estenba knows that he can't go out in time anymore. And that's his run done for now. Qualifying over then for the AMS ace, so to say. The ace player. He'll be starting for the 11th at best. Alejandro, so far solid on pole position. Nobody has been able to overtake him yet. The only driver still to be in a 1 minute 39s. I think a 1 minute 38 is going to be very optimistic. 39 has already been met. Here we go then. Final runs. There's a huge queue of cars now through the bus stop chicane. As you can see on the minimap, it's absolute chaos. And Alex now is at the back of this very long train of cars. That might spell trouble then for many a driver. Let's see then. Ollie Hornby. Improvement in the first sector, half a tenth quicker. Alejandro. Slower in sector 1 than his own lap time. Of course, he is the only driver that gets compared to himself on the new graphic thing. Tom Wolfgren does improve in sector 1. Let's see. Oliver Nutt, I'd like to follow around as well. On whether he can actually beat Alejandro to the line for pole position. First sector. He needs a 30.0. He is actually faster than Alejandro in the first sector, but it's slower than his own lap time. Checkered flag has fallen. I wonder if this means if Oliver actually has got less downforce than Alejandro. He's faster in sector 2, the Red Bull driver. 16 milliseconds to be precise, but it's enough to go purple, of course. Now there's a McLaren. No longer moving on the track. Oh, that's Tom Wolfgren without a front wing. That's his qualifying over for sure. First across the line, Ollie Hornby. Doesn't improve in position. Alejandro does improve his lap time by a tiny bit. Oliver Nutt still on his way. One of the few drivers who can hold Alejandro pole position, but he hasn't improved in sector 2 either. OMB driver Thomas Verbotten improves all the way up to P6. Strong lap time. Ken Fisher doesn't improve, stays 7th. Zozo P14 up next. Marcel Pabst, the only ETA driver remaining to set a proper lap time. Only P16. That's very disappointing. Oliver Nutt doesn't improve either. Alex Santana not improving in the middle sector. Was faster in sector 1. Gets a bit of a slipstream here from the AZR car ahead. Marcus Guerrero stays in second to last place. And Rayan Bakar for now makes it an FER 1-2, but Alex Santana can still spoil the surprise. Can he though, as he goes across the line? Can't improve in position, does improve in lap time. And that means Alejandro has remained unchallenged for that position. And FER have locked out the front row. That is crucial for them. They need this. The biggest problem for them, though, their nearest rivals are all the second row. Third and fourth for Oliver Nutt and Alex Santana. Diego Ferrer has restored TRT's honor by going P5 ahead of their nearest rivals. One of them, at least. Jeremy Gallagher, P6. Then Robotham in P7, Fisher P8, Wolfgram in 9th, Jones in P10. David Martinez for ONB, for TRT in P11, Speedy in P12, then Estemba in P13, Tristan Debecourt. Once again, hasn't improved. We'll start from P14. Zozo then P15. Marcel Paps, Ollie Horbeen, Joaquin Wigley, Marcus Herrero, and Matteo Manolo on the back of the grid. AZR are looking for another race of survival. And if they can last, perhaps enough drivers will retire for them to score at least a point. It looks like for now, in terms of pure race pace, they will not be able to do it. They were quite far of the rest. All right, FER secured their front row lockout. This is going to be an interesting battle to watch, I can tell you that much. FER versus VNT, the classic battle once again carries on. I wonder if other teams are going to try and snatch a podium from these two giants in the field. Yeah, I believe Rayan doesn't have this team, the name tag, but that might have been on my end. Wouldn't be the first time that happens. Anyway, strategy-wise, probably the most drivers will start in the mediums and switch to the hards once again. But maybe they've taken a leaf out of VRM's book from last week and will try and start on the hards. But then again, that was the strategy that worked in China. Might not work this time around. Usually, drivers tend to prefer the strategy mediums to hard, as they think that is the fastest way to go around. No tags look better anyway. That's actually not a bad point. But it is easier for me to separate the drivers, to be fair. Especially as a commentator, you have to look around real quick. Sometimes you just miss the driver, the logo and team logo and stuff. For readability, it's definitely easier. Right then, let's see if FVR can get another victory. Let's see if VNT can spoil their party and extend their lead to perhaps an insurmountable gap. There's 4 races remaining after this one. Still plenty of points on the board, of course. They can't win the title just yet, but they could deal a devastating blow to FVR. And the other way around, of course, FVR could definitely close the gap by quite the margin. Keep in mind that a 1-2 is 65 points, and then including their pole position points, they might actually score 67 points this time around. I believe 3rd and 4th amounts to 46 points total, because I think it's 26 to 20. If my memory serves me correctly, or 26 to 22, something like that. Either way, the gap could potentially be closed by about 20 or more points. And then that gap gets that much closer to being possible by simply claiming another 1-2 and the other team not scoring at all. 68 points, after all, is the maximum amount of points you can score in a single race weekend. Fastest lap, pole position, and a 1-2. As long as the gap is bigger than that, VNT is safe, even if their drivers both fail to finish. Ready up at 28 has been set in the Discord. That is under a minute, at least, on my computer's clock, as well as my phone. That should be all right then. I also saw in the chat at the start, can confirm drying quali, wet at the very end of the race. Well, that depends then on how long the race will take, whether we'll see a safety car or not. It's been a long, long time ago since I've seen a safety car. So there's that. Let's see if it happens tonight. Perhaps then some rain. For now though, it's quite sunny out there. I would love to stop yapping. I'm just waiting for the fellas to get started. It is now 28 past. That means the drivers are readying up as we speak. We'll be able to get going in about 30 seconds from this point onwards. A short run to turn 1. FVR will have control at the front of the field. Here we go then. 3, 4, and 5 red lights. Here's round 11 in Belgium. On their way as of right now. Let's see how well FVR can do into turn 1. Looks like a decent start for the both of them. In fact, it's Alex Santana having to go defensive against Jeremy Gallagher. Tries to swoop around the outside in turn 1. Tries to end a little bit of chaos in the background. That's one of the TRT drivers, Diego Ferrer, getting tapped by one of the drivers behind. Not sure who it was. But the fact is that Jeremy Gallagher is now ahead of Alex Santana. That's great news for FVR. Terrible news for VNT. Ken Fisher gets up to P6. A swap between positions for Oliver Knott and Brian Bakar. Actually now taking the lead of the race as Alejandro tries to get back to take the 1-2 from Oliver Knott. But Oliver wants to have a little bit of a say in it. Tries to get once again on the inside in turn 9. As they go to turn 10, it might be 3 wide actually. There's Jeremy Gallagher. It is Oliver Knott actually decides to bow out. Tries now to swoop around the outside of the Red Bull. Jeremy Gallagher going quite aggressive tire-wise. He's one of the 2 drivers who starts on the medium. Once again, VRM choosing to go with an alternate strategy. Everyone has started on the hards except Jeremy and Tristan. Very interesting indeed. This might be because of the weather at the end of the race. David Martinez, Tom Wolfgram going at it for the final 2 places in the top 10. A bit further back in the field. And Wolfgram for now in P9. Aston behind them has already made up several positions since the start, 2 to be precise. Tristan has got a great start as well, thanks to his medium tires already. He's up to P8 as they head toward the bus stop chicane. Now chasing down Thomas for P7. Complaints about desync in the chat. I hope that's not the case. I think Diego ghosted due to the collision he's had. Jeremy Gallagher is going, really going for it. He's making the most of those medium tires. Is Alejandro going to defend it into turn 1? He is. They want to retain the 1-2. If Jeremy gets in the mix, they will not be able to control the field. But for now, Jeremy's mediums are simply too fast in the corners to fight. And that means he now takes second place, and he might have a go for the lead. Alejandro, though, will try and get back at him. Oh, my goodness, that nearly went terribly wrong. Now Jeremy is going to have to go around the outside, and he does so beautifully. For a moment there, the FER drivers were having a battle with one another. They're going side by side. What is going on here? That's Oliver not making the most of the opportunity. But Alejandro had the door sort of half shut. Oliver had sort of a go. Didn't really work out in the end. We'll settle for fourth once more. Jeremy Gallagher leads the race. Tries to open a gap now. As long as those mediums work, he'll be perfectly fine. But this is Belgium. Tire wear is quite high. With all of these fast corners and the length of the track. He won't be able to hold on forever. And it also depends on the weather. Whether all of these drives on the hards can stay out until the rain falls and then swap to the inter straight away. No matter what, though, I think Jeremy and Tristan have definitely committed to at least a one-stop to swap from the hards to the mediums. Whether that will pay off remains to be seen. Jeremy has nearly shaken off Ryan. He's now actually shaken off. Out of DRS range he goes. I think Ryan will still get it as Ollie goes for P16 against Joachim Wigley. Just out of the points, the AMS driver is. And there we go then. Jeremy has indeed shaken off Ryan Bakar. Ryan will no longer have DRS, although he does get quite close to it. And Tristan trying to follow the example of his teammate, moving up to P7 now. He'll be a bit too far back to make another move, I'd say. In fact, it's behind him that more fights are happening. David Martinez versus Lewis Jones for P9 and 10. TRT versus ONB. ONB as well. Having a good race. They are a midfield team at the moment. P7 in the standings. Lower midfield. In the race, they are the upper midfield. So not too bad, actually. They brought two pretty fast drivers, I'd say. And David Martinez is now stuck in an Aston Martin sandwich. Which in real life you really do not want. Here, though, it doesn't matter. Not yet. We're on lap 3 right now. Jeremy Gallagher has driven himself all the way from P6 to the lead. As he goes ever faster. Once again, a purple sector for the VRM driver. As he vows to stay out of the DRS range from the next car behind. And he's the only driver who has shaken the driver behind loose. Everybody else is still within one another's DRS range. So far, a solid job once again from Gallagher to take potentially another victory home for VRM. And that will put TRT in serious trouble. And if VRM keeps it up like this, even ET8 might want to look backwards in the standings. They are currently 11th and 14th. In fact, it's also TRT that is closing the gap to P3 right now in the standings. ET8 had a few good races, even had a victory, but now appear to be in a spot of bother. China wasn't great, and now Spa isn't looking that great either. But perhaps they're just playing the patience game. Just waiting until stuff happens. Perhaps thinking of an undercut or a slightly different strategy. You never really know what these drivers are thinking or considering, along with their engineers, of course. I feel like most drivers don't really have to do any of the thinking. That's what the engineers are for, after all. And so we follow a long train of cars. 19 of them within DRS range. One of them leading the way. Just over a second away from the car behind. Alejandro overtook Ryan on the Camel Straight. Not because he wants to fight his teammate, because they toe off one another, trying to close the gap to Jeremy, whose advantage will soon shrink away. In fact, Lorero just manages to not get DRS. Through the corners, Jeremy is still faster. Exit though, looks like Alejandro got a better exit. Gained back all the time he lost in the bus stop chicane. So as it stands then, it is indeed looking like, in terms of grip and corner exits, it is now advantage Red Bull. And Alejandro has managed to get himself back within DRS range. Let's follow him on board a little bit. DRS is active, as you can see. It will not be enough to overtake. He's got barely any battery anyway. He's just trying to close the gap. Making sure that he stays close to Jeremy, but not overtaking yet. Feel like once they have the big advantage in terms of tire life, then is the moment they will attack, which I think will be within a lap or two. Perhaps even next lap already, depending on how they approach the race, of course. Feel like this is a controlled race for FVR, as well as VNT. They can't do anything but to tuck in behind their rivals. And making sure that Ken and Tristan stay behind. Ken is having a great day for IRT. They are in 9th in the standings, but with a driver in P6, that's a good haul of points to close the gap to SET in P8. That gap isn't too big. So this haul of points is important for them. SET in 13th and 15th, and a first driver to pit, that is Tristan. Ditching the mediums on the end of lap 5. Very early. But I think this is the undercut that he wants, in terms perhaps of that weather that is coming later down the race, at the very end. As it has been said. And he goes for a set of inters. Well, this is an interesting strategy. I'm a little bit confused, I'll be honest. I'm not sure if he wanted to go for the inters now. Might have been a genuine mistake there. Yeah. Well, that just happened. In the meantime, the top 6 has shaken themselves loose from the rest of the field as Tristan moved out of their way. I'm not the only one confused, apparently. Why did he put on the inters now? In the meanwhile, Jeremy is now in trouble. As I said, the mediums have been dying by this point. And now Ryan is all over the back of the Sauber, soon to be Audi. 5 laps too early, I think, lads. Yeah, I think you might be right there. At least 5 laps. Indeed, the sky is changing. It's become a bit more overcast. Let's see if I can get a proper point of view there. As you can see, there's still, it's just a tiny hint of blue still there. So the rain isn't actually that close. Now let's see what Jeremy is going to do. He's going to pit as well. If he does pit for the inters too, then this actually was a conscious strategy by the VRM team. At the moment, Tristan has lost 2 seconds to AZR's Matteo Manolo, who in turn is already 2 seconds away from the next car. That is not a good sign. Let's see. Hard tires then for Jeremy. Yeah, I think that's a better choice. Now let's see what Tristan... Actually, I think indeed it might have been a mistake. A very painful mistake. Could have been another great day for VRM. It could still be, but not for Tristan. He's already got 2 stops under his belt. And he might have to do another one, as the rain is perhaps coming in a bit earlier. Although, to be fair, look at that. There's still more blue sky now. If you turn to this side of the track, actually, yeah, never mind. The clouds have parted way again. It's still anybody's guess then on what the weather is going to do. The top 5 is all by themselves by this point. Thomas can't catch up to Ken Fisher. And Ken will be all too happy to be able to follow the 2 big teams. IRT getting P5 will be absolutely huge for them. And they do have a podium in sight. No matter how you put it, he's got the race pace. And so where VRM had the celebrations last week, it might actually be IRT celebrating it this week. Although I might have just jinxed it, to be fair. David Martinez, interestingly, is unable to keep up with Thomas, who in his turn has actually closed the gap to the top 5 a little bit. 2 seconds now. He's gained about half a second in his lap alone. Looks like he's definitely upped the pace. But now he's gonna go to the Camel Straight. That's all he'll lose. He'll be losing all the time, as well as on this part of the track. He's doing everything in his power to catch. He wants to be in the fight for the podium as well, because O&B as well not doing that bad. P6 and P8. And with David Martinez potentially in trouble, Lewis Jones could be on the offensive now. Let's see. Why have you said that commentators' curse is real? I know. Especially my curse. Whoa, very defensive there from Lewis Jones, because it's actually Tom Wolfgram on the attack. As Lewis Jones tried to close the gap, it is actually Tom who surprised him a little bit there. Oh, bumping left and right a little bit. It is also now Estenbaugh getting involved. Tom wants the inside, and Lewis really doesn't want him to get past, but he's got no choice but to yield now. Otherwise, Estenbaugh will be swooping past as well, and they will lose DRS to David. That's the last thing they want. Lewis is now down to P9, Tom Wolfgram up to P8. But there is a bit of light at the end of the tunnel for ET8 here in Spa. There's Estenbaugh as well. Maybe Lewis has gotten himself a bit of front wing damage due to the bumper cars there. Or perhaps not, because he actually did a great corner there. And Estenbaugh slots in behind. The only driver also with a penalty. 3 seconds to his name. Estenbaugh having 3 podiums out of 3 races he's attended. Right now it's looking unlikely he will get another one. But perhaps this is his way upwards. Or perhaps not, because there's Speedy having a look on the inside in the bus stop chicane. This is where the fighting is happening right now. At the front, things are stable. As soon as I can see a fight brewing in the timing sheet, I'll be sure to switch to them. Estenbaugh then making the move properly on Lewis Jones. Trying to stay within DRS range of Tom. He just hangs on to it, I think. Or does he? Let's have a little look on whether his DRS is going to open or not. He gains a bit of time there through Radion and Eau Rouge. He does get DRS, but Lewis Jones is there. On the left side, he's got no choice but try swoop around the outside. No. Estenbaugh positioned his car quite nicely, actually. Just enough to the left that Lewis couldn't make a move around the outside. So Lewis will have to stay in P10. He's in trouble ever since that battle with Tom. Now Speedy's all over the back of him, I think. Yeah, there he is. 2.5 tenths back now only. And through the corners, everybody's gaining. Now, well, I've already completed 1 commentator's curse then for O&B. Thomas, while trying to catch the top 5, has actually lost time again. Dave Martinez, same story. He was lucky that a battle happened behind him. But now it's Tom Wolfgram knocking on his door. Having a look here at the top 5. We're approaching lap 10. The halfway point is getting nearer and nearer. I will keep an eye on the sky. There's still plenty of blue. Rain is still far away, as is Tristan. Very far, actually. Jeremy Gallagnier is already caught and overtaken Matteo Manolo. He's now 3.7 seconds clear from the big train, led by David Martinez. And catching decently fast. I think he's gambling for everybody to not stop this race until the rain hits. And if that is the case, then his strategy will be brilliant. If not, then the podium will be far away. I think VRM has decided to go for a bit of a gamble. In Tristan's case, something went wrong. Probably selected the wrong tires. And that means his race is now pretty much over. He's now not only praying for the rain, but for a safety car as well. That's the only way he can catch up now. Jeremy now 3 seconds away from the next car, Diego Ferrer, who had a collision at the start of the race, causing him to go off in turn 1. And he's been hanging on the back of this train ever since. Can't get past Azarar's Marcos Guerrero. And so TRT are lucky that VRM are now at the back. And I think Diego knows that VRM are the nearest rivals. He might want to get past Guerrero now. No way through the bus stop chicane though. But he's ever so close. But this battling also helps Jeremy a great deal, as you can see right there. Okay, in about well over half a second. Diego is weaving left and right, trying to find a way past the Racing Bull. Now he's got a great run out of turn 1. Good opportunity to get into P16. Not a position he really wants to be in either way. As Alex Santana and Oliver Knott swap positions, I think indeed Tom Wolfgram and David Martinez are having a battle, although it really isn't a battle, isn't it? It is in fact... oh, look at that. Joaquin Wigley having to defend against Marcos Guerrero. Why? Turn 7 and 8 there. Joaquin didn't make it easy. And therefore, Marcos staying in the back. And in the background, there is Jeremy, almost within DRS range. And then there, as you can see, 2 trains on the minimap. And then there's this lone green dot in the name of Thomas Robotham in P6. He can't close the gap to the top 5. And behind him, they can't catch up to him. So he's the lone wolf. At the halfway point of the race, the top 5 has remained stable. I think, yeah, now the blue sky is starting to disappear bit by bit. More and more clouds are coming in. But still, absolutely no sign of rain. And this strategy of not stopping until the rain hits will look ever more unlikely. They can keep it up for another 2 laps on a normal strategy, and after that it's going to be tire saving. Jeremy is already past Diego. Diego had no choice. The tire difference is 6 laps. Jeremy could actually finish the race with these tires. Either way, he's settled. He's going to make a move now against the Racing Bull. No, just a bit too far back. And Marcos had DRS as well. So he's going to have to do it through the corners. Turn 9, perhaps turn 10 on the inside. He's diving. No problem, actually. I think Marcos knows that Jeremy's got fresher tires. Probably best to let him go. And he does so. Jeremy carries on then to the points. Joaquin Wigley P15. And while Joaquin probably would love to score points as well for IRT, the battle against Jeremy isn't going to be a fair one in terms of tire life. And he's on a different strategy. So let's see what Joaquin will do. We're watching the other IRT driver right here. Very striking yellow helmet. Very contrasting to the car's livery. You'd love to see it. Trying to push the top 2 teams. And he's still keeping up. You've got to give credit to him there. Zozo has decided to go for a regular race strategy, ditching the hards now and going for an undercut at the start of lap 13. That's 10 laps on the mediums. And off he goes, once again. And perhaps this will trigger a chain reaction from other cars. He's stopped believing that the rain will hit in time. 3 wide nearly here in turn 7. Estenbaas swooping around the outside of David Martinez. Well done. David back in P8. Tom Wolfgram has lost 2 positions, now down in P9. Oh, there comes Lewis Jones drifting into turn 9. What a corner entry or exit that was. Spectacular sight. His tires are looking to be quite worn by this point, and it shows. Hello, Lewis Jones, drifting into view. You love to see it. Now, let's see what the top 5 is going to do. They probably have already been informed that Zozo has pitted for mediums, although the SET driver really isn't a threat to the top 5 anyways. It's now almost fully overcast. And the pressure's being ramped up. Look at this. Alex Santana's decided to go the offensive. Tries to barge through in the bus stop chicane for 2nd place. Can he make it? It actually is Alejandro who's pitting now out of the top 5 first and foremost. And the DRS games might have actually started. Ryan Bakar moving everywhere. So is Alex. The gloves are off. Oh, he gets pushed off there a little bit. And VNT take the 1-2. Also, of course, thanks to Alejandro pitting. And Rayan now has to do this lap by himself. It's the VNT blockade. But Rayan has moved past 1. Tries to move past 2. He's got the inside line right here. Can he break the blockade? He somewhat can. And he fully does so. Or does he? Oliver Nutt is still around the outside. But he decides to yield. I think Rayan might want to pit on this lap. Otherwise he'll be a sitting duck on the next time they hit the Camel Straight. Ken Fisher is happily watching this as a spectator, like I do, and like everybody else in the chat does as well. Some hard racing right there between the top 2 teams. And this has actually allowed Thomas to catch up. He's caught them by at least a full second. Let's see where Alejandro is. He's got tiny bit of clean air remaining before he hits the next car of Joaquin Wigley. Marcel Paps has decided to pit as well, as has Diego Ferrer. Pit stops are coming in fast now. Jeremy Gallagher up to P11. Let's see what's going to happen here then. Is Rayan going to pit? Indeed he does, as does Oliver Nutt. As well as, no, never mind, Alex Santana does carry on. I was about to be surprised by them double stacking, but thankfully they didn't. Alex carries on for another lap. Thomas follows through. Aston Ba does as well. I wonder which drivers are going to risk the 0 stop and wait it out until the rain. Fewer and fewer are opting to do so. Well, Ken, has he just made the same mistake as Tristan? Has he just cost himself the podium? He's gone for the Inters. He's gone for the Inters while the sun is still reflecting off his Alpine. Was this once again too early? If it comes within the next 2 laps, then not. If it doesn't come within the next 2 laps, he's absolutely screwed. Now down in P14, has already lost 2 seconds to Oliver. That's a huge gamble there. Unless, once again, it was not intentional. Like in the case of Tristan, I'm sure Tristan didn't mean to go to the Inters. I'm not sure if Ken meant to go there. Manolo is now a moving obstacle right there for many a driver. Thankfully, he moves out of the way. He technically isn't obliged to do so, but he doesn't really want to be involved in the race between the top 2 teams. So fair play to him. Aquaplaning already. Trek is soaking. Yeah, look at that. Struggling to keep the car on track. Marcel's catching. Ken has now lost another second to the car ahead. Make it 2 seconds to Oliver Knott. And Alex and Thomas carry on. They are gambling for the rain to fall them. They have now definitely committed to a hard-to-enter race. Ken is also committed to that. Frankly. But the Inter's already under his car. So Jeremy Gallagher's wish of rejoining in the lead now after everybody has stopped. That one is gone. And now he's got Alejandro already right behind him on much fresher and much faster tires. There goes Speedy up to P5. And there goes Jeremy barging through on the inside. Lewis Jones lets him go. Goes off the track himself. Now also makes way for Alejandro, or does he? Oh. Loses control of his car. Goes off a little bit. Alejandro doesn't want to deal with the Aston Martin. That's not his race. Nor is it Lewis's, to be fair. Ken Fisher now down in P16. It's getting quite dark. But there's still... Oh, there is rain! There is rain! In the second lap, Ken has got his Inters on the car. The rain is falling. That's the rain he was waiting for. Was this a masterstroke then by the Alpine driver? I think it was a little bit too early. I think he should have waited a bit longer. I think the top 5 drivers remaining are the ones who have done the best strategy now. By carrying on just long enough. That means VNT could probably secure another victory here. Alejandro is still playing catch up and he's only in the bus stop chicane right now. The gap to the race leader is 7.9 seconds and shrinking fast. That's Lewis Jones now coming in probably for his Inters as Alejandro finally moves past Jeremy Gallagher. Up into P6. And the gap now down to 7.5 seconds. He can't catch up by that much in this lap alone. So he's hoping that the Inters aren't necessary for another 2 or so laps. He's now moving past Speedy up to P5. There is Tom Wolfgram in 4th place. Indeed, several others have now opted to go for the Inters apart from Ryan, who for some reason has opted to go... Oh, that's AI. Once again, I can't see who leaves or joins the session due to my taskbar being in the way. And already FVR's race might have been ruined by Ryan's AI pitting for soft tires. He disconnected. That is really unfortunate. That means it's looking ever more likely that VNT might once again extend their advantage. Alejandro now 7.2 seconds away from the race lead. He's right on Wolfram's tail. He needs to get past to keep the advantage going. There he goes, up to 4th place. Tom doesn't fight it. Although he does get a nice slipstream now. And there goes Thomas. He thinks the time to pit for Inters is now. Everybody is taking a gamble. When is the best lap to go for it? Thomas goes now. If this is the best lap, then he might actually rejoin in the lead, perhaps. He's been doing a swell job there. Where's Ken Fisher? Ken Fisher is only P13, 12, 11. He doesn't get ahead of Thomas. That means he's gone out on the Inters way too early. That's Ken's podium gone then. Alejandro 6 seconds away from the leader. Estenba right ahead of him. Suddenly, things have changed a lot, I have to say. While VNT and FPR were dominating until the pit stops happened, now it's just Alex Santana out in front. Estenba is now getting Alejandro as a bit of a visitor. And the rain still isn't pouring down hard enough for the Inters to be faster. You can see the track becoming a tiny bit wetter. The DRS is still enabled. And it looks like, at least from Alejandro's point of view, those slicks are still very grippy. And we're on lap 18. At some point, swapping to the Inters isn't worth it anymore. And Estenba and Alex must still pit. They've got no choice. Alex carries on for another lap now, praying pretty much that the track will swap conditions. Tom Wolfgram, no, never mind, Estenba, sorry, is pitting now. What tires will he choose? Will he also go for the Inters, or will he think that the mediums are better? Let's see. He also goes for the intermediates then. Very interesting. Jeremy Gallonier now in P4. And right behind Tom Wolfgram once again. If the rain doesn't come down hard enough, he doesn't have to stop anymore. Ooh, decides to not go for the dive there. Probably wise. The grip of the racing line probably is getting a bit worse by this point. But still no inter conditions, that's for sure. Matteo Manolo has also decided to go for the inters. This is very interesting. No longer is this a race of who's the fastest, but the race of who's the best gambler, pretty much. Because no strategist, not even the best one in the world, can predict what is the best one to go with. Because, look at this. Jeremy Gallonier pitted on lap 7, lap 6, for fresh hards. Finds himself almost on the podium again. All he needs to do is pass Tom, and Tom still has to pit, as is Alex. So Jeremy, for now, is a guaranteed second. Alejandro is on a winning way, because Alex must pit now, and now he does. His heart's barely alive. In he goes, and that means Alejandro takes the lead. Jeremy carries on for another lap. He no longer believes that the inters are the way to go. Oliver has overtaken him for P3. Marcel is the next car behind him. I think he'll be too far away to catch him in time. 6.6 seconds back. Tom Wolfgram has decided to go for the inters as well. Alex Santana, same story. Slowly but surely, those tires were coming to play. Through the corners, they're still slower. You saw him through Radion and Eau Rouge, losing about 0.2 of a second to David Martinez on 5-lap old mediums. Jeremy doing everything in his power in the meanwhile to stay with Oliver. He's certainly got P3. Alex Santana is not losing as much time anymore now. In fact, we're almost at the point where the inters are as fast as the mediums. But I think it will be too late for Alex to catch the leader, at least. His teammate had already given up hope that the inters were going to work. Alex still has some hope remaining. And through the corners, there it is then, at least compared to 5-lap old mediums. Alex is now faster, albeit by a tiny margin. Look at that, through the corner. You can see the gap dropping. Rian's day has just gotten even worse. 3 seconds to his name, he's already out of the points. Alejandro must win to limit the damage. I don't think FVR will be gaining points today. Oh, look at that, through the bus stop though. Yep, there we go. Alex does gain time. He actually lost on the on Blanchimont, etc. As David, of course, had a tow from Marcel. Alex is now catching quick. That's bad news for Alejandro. More points for VNT means that FVR will lose out. Tom Wolfgram has now overtaken Diego, confirming that the inters are now much faster. There is 1.5 lap to go. Is Diego going to try and get back at him? With the medium tires, he's going to do it. Round the outside. He just hangs on. Diego Ferrer back in P10. But Tom Wolfgram on grippier tires is going to try and move around the outside. Let's see then. This is a proper battle between two tire compounds. Very interesting. Round the outside then in turn 11. No, goes to white, and there is Ken Fisher. Trying to save what's left. No podium. But perhaps a top 10 still for IRT would be something. It still means some good points for the team. Side by side they go once again. Tom Wolfram is desperate to get past. He knows his inters are faster, but Diego is making his Mercedes extraordinarily wide. And there is Ken Fisher swooping past the McLaren. Tom Wolfram not a happy man by this point, I'm sure. At the same time, Alex Santana versus the other Mercedes, David Martinez. How wide is he going to make his mark? Not as wide as Diego did. Alex moves past into P5. The barging battle carries on here. Diego somehow defends against 3 drivers on the Inters. Now he's going to go on the inside. Is he going to hold on? Somewhat-ish. DRS isn't disabled. It would be better for him to stay behind the Williams, but there's Speedy going for a P10 now. He does go ahead. The question is now, will Diego get DRS? Let's see. That's the wrong one. There we are. He does still get DRS. Speedy can't close the door in time. Jeremy Gallagher is also on the move. Gets past Oliver Knott. Somehow, these hard tires are better than the mediums on Oliver's car. A bit of a saving grace, Alejandro is for FVR here. I'm sure the FVR people watching will now actually actively cheer on Jeremy for keeping Oliver behind. Alex Santana is already up to P4. There's a lot of things going on the track. Apologies if I can't show you everything. We'll soon have to swap to the winner, of course. Because there we are. Alejandro has executed this strategy probably the best out of everybody. Alejandro goes for it. Takes the checkered flag as the race winner. That is at least some good news for FVR. Jeremy Gallagher is the other good news for FVR as he goes for another podium for VRM. Oliver Knott completes the podium with VNT returning to form, actually. Alex Santana in P4. Marcel Pabst just loses out to Thomas Robotham, who finishes P5. I think Thomas will be very happy with that one. A very strong result for ONB. I think the best of the season so far as I can remember. David Martinez will have to make do in P7. Estenba in P8 from 13th. Tom Wolfgram in P9. All in all, for ET8, not too bad of a race. 6th and 9th place. SET, P10 and P12, very decent as well. Ken Fisher, after all that's happened, can only manage P11. He'll be bitterly disappointed. Had he stayed out a bit longer, then he would have almost certainly been on the podium. So you can blame that one on me. I definitely commentate to curse this man. Oof. So then, Alejandro Loureiro as the race winner with the fastest lap as well. So that means 35, actually 38 points for FVR. And I'm afraid that's not enough to gain on VNT as they finished 3rd and 4th. They'll actually be extending their advantage to FVR. Thomas Robotham will be very happy for his team in P5. Then Marcel Pabst in P6. David Martinez finishes 7th. Estenba with his penalty in P8. Then Tom Wolfgram in P9. Zozo in 10th. Ken Fisher then in P11 with Speedy in P12. Lucas Jones for an extra bit of points for OMB. P13. Double points as well for IRT actually. with 14th place for Joachim Wigley. Then Diego Ferrer, disappointed probably in P15. Tristan Debecourt will also be very disappointed in P16. Ollie Hornby then is 17th. Marcus Guerrero in P18. Ryan Bakar, after being disconnected, can only manage P19. And then it's Matteo at the back of the field. Started last, finished last. Well, you said it's a generational bottle from VNC. But they were lucky that FVR had some more woes to deal with. So in the end, it's not that bad of a bottle. I'm sure some drivers will have a lot to say about this race, so I'm going to try and tag them for an interview. I don't think Jeremy will be joining. He didn't join last week either. My brain is completely fuzzed. Who finished third? Yeah. Jack Harrington making a fair point there. I don't think it's much of a bottle anyway. Was it Oliver or Alex who finished third? For some reason, my brain has decided not to remember that, so that's GG for me. It was Oliver, yeah, I remember now. Oliver finished P3. Right, still a very interesting race to watch, mostly due to the weather. It was a very long DRS train, the first stint, of course. VRM once again tried to do something different. In the end, it did actually work out for Jeremy. It didn't take the win, but still another great second place. And I think, points-wise, they might have passed TRT for 4th place by this point. They are definitely on a roll. So far, so good then for VRM. And ET8 will probably be very happy with the... sorry. With the result tonight. They will at least keep TRT at bay for a bit longer, and VRM as well. So there it is. In the Discord now, Ace just said Aston Ba's 100% podium record is now over. Indeed it is. But in the end, I don't think he finished too bad. P8 from where he started. So I think Aston Ba will actually be pretty happy with the result. Some points there for AMS. Looks to me like nobody's going to join for an interview. Oliver said that he'll join if they will. And by they meant he meant Alejandro and Jeremy, but neither are joining. So there's that. Unfortunately, no interviews again this week. That's a shame. Oh well, what can you do about it? Let's have a look then at the calendar to see what's still to come. 4 races remain. We're headed to the North American continent for 2 races in a row. Mexico first and foremost. And then we're headed a bit north to Texas, Circuit of the Americas. Then back to Europe one more time to go to Italy, Monza. Always a good racetrack. And then we'll finish off the season with another high-speed track in Las Vegas. So that's that. Let's see how the teams can do then the remaining 4 races. FVR will seriously have to up their games and strategies if they want to have a chance at beating VNT. VNT has once again gained in terms of points in the standings. I think they'll be over 100 points clear once again after tonight. There's some discussions going on some moves in the Discord, so perhaps the FIA will swap the results of this race around a little bit. Thank you so much for joining once again here tonight. I hope you did enjoy the extra bit of fancy graphics I've been putting on the board. Next week, there'll probably be a bit more I'll be trying out. There's no guarantee they'll work out perfectly, But there is that. Oh, actually, well, before I say my goodbyes, it is indeed Oliver who has decided to join us. Thankfully, there's somebody who wants to say a few things about the race. Thank you, Oliver, for joining. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I can.
Excellent. Well, from my point of view, I have to say this was a very interesting race, strategy-wise especially. Was there any way to predict which strategy was the best today?
I don't know. I think I thought I'd made a massive mistake going to mediums that late. I should have boxed with Alex Lofa, to be honest. I should have boxed with him because I think I obviously would have been a lot closer. Maybe a slight little chance of sticking with him, but no, it was a bit weird. The rain, obviously around here, the rain comes down really, really hard. But for some reason, he just decided to kind of stagnate a bit over a few laps, and then obviously towards the end it was inters, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was a bit weird. I was expecting it to be a lot worse than it actually was. So I think all in all, I'm quite happy with what I did. But no, the inters were definitely better at the end. It's just yeah, a bit odd.
So it's safe to say that the strategy you guys chose was the best way to go.
I think the mediums were the best way to go, but FER did it better, as in boxing a lap earlier.
Yeah. Speaking of FER, of course, they started on the front row. You two started on the second row. What was the approach in the race, especially in the first stint, when you were tucked behind them?
Yeah, it was literally impossible to stick with them, because they were pushing quite hard. It felt like, because of that, we swapped cars, like lap 10 or whatever it was. But then, yeah, Alex had the same issues. So we were kind of just hoping that like one lap they would make a mistake or something. We could get a little bit closer, have a try. Yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of praying. There was literally nothing else you could do.
Yeah, I think that's the safest way to say it, indeed. There's 4 races to go. You've got about 100-point lead on FVR. What's your prediction going to be? I think I already know the answer, but I'd love to hear from you. What do you think is going to happen in these final 4 races? Will it be close or will it be easy for you?
I think we'll win. Easy. Easy.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me, and enjoy 3rd place after all that's happened.
Thank you. Cheers. See ya.
All right, happily then, we did get another interview in by the end. So thank you so much for sticking around just a little bit longer. And thank you to Oliver for making some time for us here and give us some insight about the race. Always interesting to hear what the drivers were thinking, especially in terms of strategy, which was nigh on impossible to predict tonight, as Oliver himself confirmed as well. He confirmed as well that the hard to medium strategy was the way to go. So Alejandro did indeed do it best. And he won the race, therefore. Thank you so much for joining then. We'll see you next week in Mexico. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. We'll see you next week. Same place, same time. Until then, goodbye.